powerful.
You see, yes, and even in China and Japan, you know, you want a more submissive, subservient woman.
Right.
And that's why I chose this title,
Yeah.
because I felt that my main character, Sayo, is a Firehorse Woman, truly, and she's one in spirit and soul. And that is the type of individual who would survive in America,
Right.
who could survive during the time that she came in the turn of the century, as an immigrant woman, as a picture bride.
Picture bride.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's a very different life that she's entering here, and she has to be strong, and she has to be independent. You see, and that is the thing that, so it had to be a plus, a good quality to be a Firehorse Woman. You need to be a Firehorse Woman in America.
To survive in America.
That's
right. The quality of America, exactly. So just give a little synopsis about this. It's about 3 generations of women.
Japanese women.
Japanese American, or it starts off from Japan?
Starts out with a picture bride. That is Sayo. And she is a Firehorse Woman, but of course her aunt lies about her sign, because that would be a real no-no in Japan.
Right.
And so she comes to America, and then it's about her daughter and her granddaughter. And so there are 3 lines in this story, I mean in the novel. One is Sayo's story, which goes, much of it is in the past. And then the daughter and the granddaughter, their stories are in the present in camp. So this is where we have a background of Manzanar.
So we go back to Manzanar.
Go back, because I felt that it was important to tell the story, even though it was fictionalized. Oh, and I had a hard time with that. In fact, I didn't want to fictionalize something. You know, I felt
because it's so real.
Yeah, not only so real, but I felt like, you know, if you fictionalize something so traumatic like that in our community history, that it might degrade it, or it might, you know, lessen its impact if you do that. But so it was very hard for me. But when I was writing that section, whether or not I should fictionalize, but I decided to go with it because I felt that it was important, especially because I wanted to bring the Indian presence in it.
I see.
Because this has happened to the Indians forever.
This is exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's the other thing, Firehorse, it's funny, Firehorse Woman, the Japanese is, do you remember the Japanese?
Wait, it's Uma no Hino?
Uma no Hino.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that, in Japanese they refer to it as Firehorse, because it sounds very Indian, Native American.
That's right.
You know, and I just think that it's, and at the beginning of your book, and I actually would like to have you just read maybe the prologue.
Yes.
We can go through that, because there are amazing similarities between Japanese. It's from a sociological point of view, I guess, anthropological point of view. There's a lot of, don't you think? There's a lot
even the roots. I mean, they say that the Amaran people came from Asia. That's the, you know, the first Indian quote that came to the New World.
Right, exactly. The New World.
But I think that in terms of Manzanar, you know, there is a history there, a history that goes way back with the Paiute Indians, thousands of years back, you know, of being, you know, misplaced, displaced, imprisoned, you know, killed, and so forth. And so what happened to the Japanese Americans is just, you know, kind of a blip in the history of what has happened to Native Americans, you know, throughout the whole country, the whole history. I think that that we need to really look at this, pay attention, and see that how a culture has almost been destroyed.
Exactly. Oh, I see. Exactly. Oh, I see. So is this somewhat dedicated then to what Native Americans have gone through? Is that what the book also tries to get
well, the
at?
main character, the love interest is an Indian.
I see. Okay. Would you like to read the prologue from that? Because I think it's just a beautiful opening, and it really gives a wonderful flavor to what the book is about. Yeah, just go ahead and just read that.
This is the prologue, actually. In late spring of 1942, the biting wind of California's high desert blew harder than anyone could remember. Howling and tearing up sagebrush, it sent skeletal tumbleweeds cartwheeling like drunken clowns over the sandy flatlands. Churned up dust gathered in clouds so thick they blotted the noon sun. causing speculation of an unscheduled eclipse. Some explain that dark spring as a time when the great wind gods of the four directions had met to display their wrath, excuse me, or perhaps sorrow at some mysterious event. Were the gods speaking to the ghosts of desert Indians who once populated the land? The Owens Valley Paiutes, driven out long before the Los Angeles Water District stole the river's water, were now scattered throughout the nation. Like wind-blown smoke, their villages disappeared from this elevated land so close to the sky. A land once alive with wild geese, deer, and elk, a rich land nurtured by light of a constant sun, brilliant even in winter, and pure waters from the Sierra Nevada mountains. The Paiutes might have explained that the balance of power between Grandfather Mountain and Grandmother Valley had been corrupted when Los Angeles engineers carved canals in the earth, lined them with cement, and channeled life-giving waters to the south. They might have explained how Grandfather drew snow to the granite peaks of his shoulders and sent it as liquid crystal down his body, directing it to the valley floor, where Grandmother received it into her breasts. Trickling rivulets and gurgling creeks fanned out from her bosom, feeding the surrounding land. What caused the wind gods to converge that spring? Was it exasperation at the condition of the ravaged land, sorrow for the disappearance of its stewards, the Paiutes? Or could it have been a warning, an omen of things to come? Coincidentally, at that exact time, something strange was happening in the Owens Valley. Between the towns of Independence and Lone Pine, a hurriedly constructed compound of black tar-papered barracks arose in the parched desert. Surrounded by barbed wire fencing, a square-mile area teemed with thousands of dark-headed bodies, people dressed in somber clothes, huddling in groups for protection from the raging wind. Soldiers with rifles marched around the perimeter. The American flag fluttered its colors at the camp's entrance. What was this mysterious encampment that had sprouted up so suddenly in the barren valley? Roaming aimlessly amid piles of suitcases, bundles, and boxes, the people waited to greet newcomers arriving in buses. Their faces were Asiatic, with complexions of ruddy brown, warm tan, and pale ivory, almond-shaped eyes, some almost round and others thin and narrow, watered and turned red from stinking sand. They looked Indian. Could these be the scattered Paiutes now returning to the homeland? Was the droning Namu Amu Dabutsu, chanted by Buddhist devotees, in truth an Indian incantation? No, these were not Indians, although some genetic particle of the blood running through their veins may have coursed through those of Mongolian nomads who eons ago crossed the Aleutians from Asia and later migrated down the frozen tundra to the lush North American continent. These were Japanese Americans, immigrants, and their children and grandchildren, and Japan was at war with America. Dressed in a dark green kimono, salt and pepper gray hair swept up into a pompadour, a striking older woman stood alone, apart from the milling crowd. She faced west toward Mount Williamson, black onyx eyes glittering with a liquid light that may have come from tears or perhaps inspiration. Those steep peaks soaring toward heaven could have drawn from her the undisguised strength that set her apart from others. Or possibly her eyes simply were looking west over the mountains.